All right, coming in hot. Couple minutes late, but that's just because I was finishing putting the stuffing around the turkey. Got it all sitting on top of the stove, waiting to go. Those of you watching the VOD, thank you for that. If you're new to the videos that we put up here on Monsters and Memories YouTube page, be sure to check out all of the other VODs that we have up. We've got a lot of great art VODs as well. If you don't mind, if you like what you see, please subscribe. So that folks watch the videos, but comments, hitting subscribe, and like probably help the algorithm. I don't know how much we need to catch back up on what's going on with YouTube algorithm at some point, but yeah, that's probably helpful. Anyway, those of you that are regular, you know the deal. Skip ahead a bit and we'll get going. What I want to do now is get Unity up. I reset the machine in preparation for the stream. So hopefully we don't have any problems, but get Unity loaded and then wrap up some quest work that I really wish I had already had done. But we'll see. We'll see if we can get it done on stream and maybe walk you through the quest process. Kind of how I structure some things and see what you think. Leave me feedback. Tell me how to do it. I haven't been a game designer in 10, 11, 12 years. But I think it makes sense. So you can check out the process. Organic cacao. Hello. Oh man, I haven't even had a chance to bathe today. I do think so. At 5, I'll get up promptly at 5 from here. I'll throw the turkey in the oven. It's like a 1.5 kilo turkey thigh that I got from the farmer's market on Tuesday. So we'll see. I brined it last night. All right. Unity's loading. I can work on my posture. And yeah, got everything I need going. I skimmed. Ali posted a review for Embers Adrift from MMORPG. Let's see. I started skimming that. I need to read it in detail after the stream. Maybe I'll do that tonight. Let's skip down to the end here. Well, Emily Burns did not give it a very high score, so it'll be interesting to read her full review and kind of see what it is she was expecting from the game. Which actually gets into an interesting point. I wonder, and again, I haven't read this yet. I wonder under what context the review is occurring. And it raises a good question as to, should a indie game receive the same type of review as a bigger game? Should a game that, I don't know what state they're actually in. Are they considered sort of early access, or are they just considering that live now? Feel free to let me know on Discord if you're watching this later. So, yeah, I wonder, should maybe we should all just have the same scoring system. So if an MMO is $200 million, it should be scored the same way as like a MMO that's just from an indie team like us. I think that might be interesting. Just keep it that way. Then let the reader sort of make their own determination. Scores in general, I don't know. Does it matter anymore? No offense if you're from a publication, but does anybody actually give a shit? Like, I wonder how many people. All right, I wonder what their monthly active users look like at some of these websites. Hey, Fabrizio. Hello, Remez. Embers is considered live. Okay, fair. So, and maybe I'll do this a little bit later. I'll come back through here, but Balu, our new environment artist, working with Pattis, has been working on this harbor district of the city, and it's really coming along. Hey, Sakaj. I can picture the duck emote. I can picture it. Don't you worry. Alright, so one thing that I need to do is... Let's just get to work, so I don't screw around like I did last time. Hey, Dram. The gym looks really nice. It's very cool. I asked Pattis if we could actually have the sun come through the gym, and so he's going to look into making it two-sided and then see if that works. So depending on the orientation of the sun, it may blast through. And when we're in game later, you'll be able to kind of see why that would be cool. So he's coming along nicely. It is. I was checking it out earlier. I was just kind of like zooming through a little bit while I was chatting with Hidden Tree from the Evercraft Online team. And so just while we were chatting, I was just kind of like zooming around in here, looking at stuff and looking at the different views and the complexity of the city and getting pretty excited. Maybe we'll hop in game and run around here. How much power is in a gym? Can you steal it? I'm not going to say. I don't want to overpromise, but I also don't want to have any spoilers. Hey, Big Al. All right, so let me look at my sort of remaining things to do. Inquisitor list. Let's get right into it. Just so I can run through kind of the approach I've been taking since I've come back to design. Like I said, I haven't officially been a game designer since like 2011. And so is there lore behind the game? There is, but most of the lore will be learned in game. We'll update our website at some point, and we'll have some nice establishing lore, some information about the races and stuff like that. But we're gonna save as much of that as possible for folk to discover when they get in. Hey, Pazzy. Oh man, coffee's still nice and hot. That's so wonderful. Oh, is there lore behind the gym, not the game? Damn. Sorry. I just went off in a completely, yeah. If there is any lore behind the gym, and I'll be honest with you, I'm not going to bullshit you. I think it was just set up because it looks really cool. And then what we'll wind up doing is writing some lore, which actually I think is a fair note in terms of the development stream aspect of this. A lot of times we'll see lore develop pretty organically, and that's not just a pun on your name, Organic Cacao. We'll see it develop pretty organically, like over time, because what will happen is we'll have some blurbs, we'll have ideas, in lore or established, like sort of foundational lore that we're pulling more specific lore off of. Then we'll put that blurb out there and be like, hey, let's do this. Or here's a description of an area, like whether it be this night market, or if we go over to the Concourse of Souls here, this area that's lots of crypts and structures with a guild hall that's been established by the Necromancers Guild and also serves as a guild and base of operations for the Shadow Knight. And so we'll start here with like a blurb, and then what'll happen is rather than try to dictate all of the details, and just because we also haven't had the time to just sit down and blow everything out, someone like Pattis will pick it up and start getting creative, and whatever's in his mind's eye will start to take form. And then we'll look at that and be like, oh shit, this is actually really cool. We weren't expecting this. There's like a, sort of a freestyle here or a doodle there, or in this case, like a giant gem here. And then we'll look at it and be like, oh, there wasn't specific lore that dictated this, but we do know that we know about the factions in the city, and I can absolutely see how that might conveniently link into one of the bigger factions and sort of their themes and stuff, right? And so it winds up being this back and forth that during development, if you're fortunate to be on a team like this, happens between all of the disciplines and all of the team members. And this is one of those this is one of those topics where it's natural to kind of look at. The more varied you've got in terms of like stylistic preferences or backgrounds or whatever on the design team or team in general, if you've got one kind of unifying set of values that allow you to speak the same language, basically, then those differences and those different ideas allow us to really start to get some interesting content in, because we're all kind of writing from our perspective or point of view and throwing shit in that we think is cool, and then kind of surprising the other people, and then riffing on whatever that thing is that just surprised us. I'm gonna hop up for 1 second. No, my dog's right there. Okay, I thought I heard my dog just bouncing around, but nope. I'm in 474. Thank you for the follow. Pezzy says, I can already think of a lot of possibilities of what the gym is. My first thought is the Jewel of Desert that was brought here to magically provide water and life, build this city around. I could see that. Got the feeling, because we've got some ideas on kind of how the hows and whys and details. That won't be it for us, but I could absolutely see that being reasonable lore. Somebody asked a question. Who was it? Let me see. Somebody asked a question in Discord. Radigar did. Was just asking about like the textures, and because sand color, brown sand color, and I went ahead and just reminded them that all the textures at the moment are all placeholder. These obviously look more placeholder than others, but it's all placeholder, and we'll be working on that. And we've had some concepts done to look at some building differentiation, and I think we'll need more, and we'll definitely be hammering away at textures at some point, not too horribly distant future. As he said, even if you don't provide lore for something, by the time I get to play it, I'm sure to imagine something interesting. It's something I love doing in EQ. If these two things are nearby, then I can extrapolate from that as a fun exercise. Yeah, and I think, so what I was going to say at the end of my last little bit was, one, it's interesting to see what the community interprets things as. I can say with 100% certainty, because I did it. Was when I was on the team, we would read theories about places or where certain storylines were going or whatever that existed in the community, and then be like, all right, that actually seems really smart. Let's go in that direction. And then it's funny because sometimes the community would be like, holy shit, we were right. They've been planning this the whole time. Is no, but we do read the forums. And so, yeah, that's pretty fun. And then I think the other point, and I was talking about this earlier today with Hidden Tree, is just if the game allows for a lot of negative space, if the game isn't trying to show you every single detail, in the art or whatever, then you can fill in a lot of blanks with just whatever you think it is. So I think that's fun. It's kind of like reading, right? It's like a step up from text. Our game is going to have a lot going on with text, but then it's kind of text plus visuals with how we're building the world and stuff. So that's pretty tight. Cool. So what I tend to do, and I don't think there's no security issue, nothing's being spoiled at the moment. When I sit down, so the other day I really wanted to power through some quests. And so in doing that, I sat down really quickly because, again, the quests that we're working on right now invariably will be altered and updated and modified. And as we learn more things or get new technologies or features in place, then we'll come back and sort of revamp stuff or maybe retune like level ranges, et cetera, et cetera. Or in some cases, somebody on the team may wind up having time and be a better writer than I am or something and come in and be like, all right, well, let's improve this. Hopefully they talk to me before they do it, but I wouldn't be shocked if that happened. And so what I do is I just sat down really quickly and came up with an outline. And so, and these are this is, okay, I never updated the heading. So I just did like a quick copy, paste of the format. And so these are Inquisitor quests. And so what I do is I just do a quick outline of interactions, what I expect the sort of gameplay to be or whatever mechanics there or whatever. And that allows me to at least have something that's I can quickly kind of iterate on and think through and go, all right, is this good enough? It lets me visualize sort of the scope of work. From there, I basically just move straight into setting it up so I know kind of the triggering interaction. And if you look at our quest database, you'll see that it easily follows along with this approach, right? So we've got NPC quests. And if I look here and go far, all right. So when I go in and set up the first quest, it's always going to be like, this is where the newbie note is given, and this is the response, and I'll give a generic sort of hail response to them because this may be the first time that we're putting any dialogue on this NPC. It may be a brand new NPC even. And so it's like, all right, while I'm in here and I'm adding this quest, I might as well put the generic hail on there. Need to come back and do like faction and class-specific responses. And then another thing I need to do on all of my quests is go back and basically look at different stages and make sure that they're limited to that class and potentially of certain levels. I haven't done that on any of them yet, but in us going through and updating a lot of the documentation last weekend and earlier in the week, and just kind of like looking at every piece of functionality and recording it, which I wish it was easier to show you our wiki, our Confluence, but I'm pretty sure if I show it to you, then there's probably like URL information and other stuff that may or may not be a problem. I don't know 100%, so I've never shown it. But we've got a pretty big and growing internal wiki using Confluence. So what I've done is basically go in and look at like every every piece of a tool and try to record it. And if I have a good understanding of what every button and option is, I write that down. And if I don't, then I see if I can quickly figure it out, or I flag it for follow-up to get with Ollie, who implemented it, or Nick, who's maybe used it before, or whatever, so that we can easily sort of record that or so I can record that and it's easier for new people to come in and kind of check it out. And so, for example, if I when I'm using something like the spawn manipulator, basically breaking down every single aspect of this and all of the available commands and all that stuff. So that's what's been going on. And as part of that, I realized, oh hey, I have not been using the functionality that we have to be able to restrict quests. What I have been doing though is basically, for the most part, I think there's an example even in this quest series. I don't follow this rule, but for the most part, I have it so that it's all sort of daisy chained off of you turning in your newbie note. So you spawn with a newbie note. We figured that's nostalgic. I'm still, I was torn on that. I like the idea of just spawning you with absolutely nothing and then going from there. But newbie note, acts as at least a little bit of a first guide and can get you going, can get you asking guards where to find the place or the person mentioned on the note, et cetera, et cetera. And so newbie note triggers the first quest, which for our system, we have the ability to, we basically, we put all of this in our text editor, and each one of these pieces then, instead of being broken into like separate fields, I've worked with some quest systems that has like a column or a field for each bit of functionality. And this gives us more flexibility, but it's not scripting. It's kind of like a simplified scripting system in a sense. I'm just trying to drink it while it's still warm. And so what we're doing here is it gives you experience. I'm going to replay this. I love it. It gives you experience. The NPC does an emote. The NPC's got a say. There's now a delay. We'll probably come in and tweak these delays over time. What we're trying to do is not hit you with one big block of text. Instead, have it kind of come out in a more natural fashion. I don't believe we have triggered animations at this point. I don't think so. I could have sworn that was on the future request list, but what we could do is have the emote and potentially like play an animation, and what it would wind up likely being is just we come in here and insert the anim command in the name of the anim. So the text, the dialogue is then broken up by a series of delays to make it just kind of flow a little bit more naturally, give it a little bit of production value, and also not just overwhelm you with a shitload of text. You're handed a duplicate version of the note. Excuse me. So now you get what you think is the newbie note back, but it's a new one that's enforcing, this first step. And then you take it to the next NPC. The reason why it works this way is if I just gave you the original newbie note back and I give you experience at this stage, then you could just sit there and keep turning the note in over and over and over again and keep getting experience. So this blocks that from happening. And we're not using, and this is a thing that was actual conscious decision. We're not using like quest flags. We're not essentially coming in here and saying, okay, you've done this stage, now somewhere in your character data or whatever, we're just recording that flag. Instead, it's item driven and restriction driven. It seems it's a lot more old school, but there are some, without us having a quest journal where you can kind of just see where you left off, and typically a quest journal is just going to show you what flags you've completed and what flags are currently in play. Without a quest journal, this feels like a nice way to accommodate that. And those of you, you'll see in a minute as well, those of you who have seen me work on items, what I try to do in the item description is maybe get a hint as to where you got it. And so it'll be like in this next stage where Petra gives you this orb and this bag, then it'll say something on there. It's like the orb that Petra gave you is part of the description, right? Or the bag that Petra gave you, that kind of thing. To do X, to collect to collect the ornate carved spikes in this case. So anyway, so yeah, basically it just works through these dialogues, and you can see here this is very simple text editor, and yeah, it's one. Yeah, sorry about the flags and pop. I'm not saying it's entirely my fault, but we understand it was not ideal. And then all of this information is just in a database, and it makes it really easy to sort of go through and find stuff and fix things. And it's with it all being in one field. I mean, we've got a nice constraint of 1,024 characters, and even in this quest, I found that I was over by like 100 characters, and what it does is it forces me to come in and maybe be a little less verbose. So the other thing that we do that's a little different is we're not trying to necessarily just hold your hand and be super intuitive on shit. So there's a stage in here. Yeah, right here. So she gives you the quest items. In theory, you could go out and start the quest, but if you don't continue talking to her, you're probably going to get a little confused. And so she asks you, are you familiar with Terrellonian seer stones? Do you know what the stones do? Well, obviously you're not, and you haven't. So if you ask her about it, you'll get more information that's actually, the information you need. Is that the best way to do this? No, because people will get confused. You didn't just walk them right through this shit. Will it be interesting to see if people enjoy the experience of actually having to pay attention? Well, that's a big part of what we're doing here. Pazzy asks, are there plans for in-game note-taking? Well, I can get a real or digital notepad. It'd be nice to have an option to consolidate the information in with my character. Yeah, so I think we've got like a notepad. I could have sworn that we can bring up. Adding some functionality to make it easier to sort of record these things, or potentially even having a sort of like a post interaction record that we do for you, a little bit of journaling where you see your interactions or whatever, maybe. But we don't want to like create a quest journal per se. But at a minimum, we'll be working to improve the note-taking tools. I thought it was super cool and really cute in Project Gorgon when they're like, I could have sworn they're like quest UI or whatever had like a note thing, and it was really cool because at one point you had to like remember the sequence of numbers that were shown to you or whatever, and you just bring that up and put it into your notebook, and boom, you can bring it back up again. So we'll see what we could do. I'd rather make a really cool note-taking tool in game than like compromise and make a quest journal. So just speaking from a personal standpoint. So anyway, what I do at this stage is I write out all of the dialogue and sort of interactions that you're going to have, and I make notes of all of the items. And at first, maybe sometimes I just come up, like I don't have the actual formal name. I just have I'll mention the fiction of the item or something, but I'll bold all of those so I can easily spot them. And as I'm adding items that needed to be created, I go down to the bottom of my list. And what I'll do is, and it's funny, I shared this document, like a couple of these quests with Luna when she joined the team, and I realized I'd kind of been like informally in my head doing this stage, and it didn't exist in my documents that I gave her. But with this one, I was like, well, I should actually be doing best practice in doing that. So it makes it a bit quicker for me So what I do is, as I'm working through the dialogue, I just keep logging all of the items here. Because then once I'm finished writing everything, what I tend to do is I'll start with all of these bold, and like this one has not been made because it's not been made yet because it's still bolded. So I know that. So I'll start bold, and as I make the items, I'll unbold them. And what that allows me to do is go into the item database. I'll just go into the item database, and most of these items are either a quest token, right? Like it's just essentially it's a fictional thing that is meant to help allow you to complete a stage of a quest. And we want them to be as kind of informative and juicy and fictional as possible. But really all they are is like a token. It's like, okay, you get this off of the NPC, or you get this from the interaction, and you take it back and you turn it in. Or in many cases, again, with trying to like keep this feeling pretty old school, if we want you to collect like 6 of something, one cool way of handling that turn in, especially so that we know that we sent you on that quest, is to give you a bag. And so in this case, you'll get 2 bags, and in the first one, you've got another bag. Right. And so in the first one, you get this bag to put these little spikes in, these nails that you've got to pick up. Like you've got to go observe these guys that are moving through town. And this I still need to implement today, but it's the last thing that needs to be implemented. You follow these NPCs through town, and if you're holding this stone that glows, and you get near where they stop, because they'll stop for a minute and then they'll keep moving. And what they're doing is they're putting these spikes into the wall. And when you are holding that stone, if you go there and use our /look that we have, then it'll trigger an interaction, and that's using our mud actions system. And so the action knows that you're holding that item, and then will give you the item that you're looking for. And so 4 of those will be picked up by following 2 guys around, and then 2 more will be taken off the corpse of another of these characters that you run into. Spoiler. Well, I'll just leave it at that, actually. I won't spoil it, because who knows, maybe you're going to play an Inquisitor. And so what I do is I come in, and this is the unsexy part of the, game development. Hopefully I'm not ruining, I don't sit around with like a jar full of fairies, or, like anything crazy or complex. It's really just, I come in and find the last or the first quest token that comes to mind. And so a lot of times it'll be something like a head, right? Like I think Nick made this head. When was this? Oh, last year sometime, right? And so it's always really easy to kind of come in and go, I need a quest token. I'll come in, I'll duplicate row with keys, which means it basically duplicates everything in here as is, even if it's foreign keyed to something. And then I'll come in and I'll start making it fictionally my own, right? And so if I look at something like the Bone Construct head is part of this quest. Bone Construct's this giant, monstrosity of a skeleton that is in Wormsbane. And the jar full of fairies confirmed. Yeah, that's... They show themselves when you right click. And so this giant monstrosity of a skeleton that Nick's got in Wormsbane just come in, and when you kill it, I think there's like a 25% chance that it's gonna drop the head. And a little bit of descriptive text in here. Give it a icon, and this one's pretty chill. You can see here, this is the bag that you'll put the head in originally. And so when you've got that, this is like a black silk, rune covered black silk bag. And I've never done a single item or single slot container, so this is actually an experiment to see if it works. I like that today's stream is, in particular feels like I'm new hire being onboarded. Spoiler alert, if people are ever thinking that they want to be a new hire at some point, in this area of the game, this probably wouldn't be a bad stream to take in and understand. I'm totally not doing this stream with that in mind, but wink wink. Use what the good Lord gives you. So what I do here is basically I show, I'm showing you the bag when it's a container and the bag when it's been combined, closed, which converts it into a new item. And so there's the bag and then there's the bag full. If you look at the name, sometimes I change the names, sometimes I don't. Like if I say bike, the empty bag is a small leather bag and it's got one description, and the full bag is a small bag of spikes. Why is it inconsistent like that? Well, because my brain just works in very inconsistent ways. I don't like that kind of structure, or I'm too lazy to be that structured, unlike my wife. But I like shit just being kind of mixed up like that. I don't want this to feel like you're just playing a system. We're not procedurally generating content. We don't have a spreadsheet that just sort of like we drag and quests fall out of, right? Everything's handcrafted and kooky, and that's part of the charm, in my humble opinion, which is super humble. So you can see here what I was saying earlier. Petra gave you this bag to fill with ornately carved spikes. Don't forget to close it once it's full. The reason why that last part on there is honestly because it is the first of these you encounter, period. And that, I don't know if that's actually going to make it into the game, but I've thrown a couple of these in there and we'll see. Over time, we may need to get a field that allows us to define what the combine button says. So maybe it's closed or something like that. That would be a decent feature. Probably wouldn't be hard at all for Ollie to do, or any of the guys. Button field, i.e. close. Okay, and so now I've got a note, and I can follow up with the guys later. And so then when you combine this bag, and this is data defining characteristics of the bag, so it's 6 slots. The slots are small. It's not linked to a specific trade skill. So then when you combine it, it becomes a new item. It's literally a new item. There's something I need to follow up on because I don't know that we can do it at the moment, and we may need some code support. But this small leather bag will actually equip in your bag slot, and so it's visible at the moment. They all look like pouches, but in the future we may have like pouch, bag 3, bag 12, whatever, and then maybe even the ability to dye them or tint them in our system. And so like the rune covered black silk bag, we could just make black. That'd be pretty cool, right? Barry 678, thank you for the follow. And so yeah, and here are all the attributes. No drop. I don't know why this is unique here, and maybe just as a farming preventative or talking up on bags. Anyways, like I said, shit's not completely consistent. You know what? Yeah, medium's fine for this because then it's got no. In all honesty, these should probably be tiny. But anyway, it'll be fine. It's not a bug. It's just a polish thing to consider. So what I do is I go through the full list and I make all the items. So we were just talking about quest tokens. The note is a quest token, in all honesty, right? So if I look at this note, it's just the first quest token that you get. The difference is because it's a note, I can put data in the data field, and we can give you a little message, but then it's even got a description, a weathered and torn piece of parchment. So these tags, you'll notice in our database we've got a tag column for pretty much everything. It makes it a lot easier to for the find stuff in here without running complex queries. It's just boom, I can, you know, in the item database, I can see everything that's tagged with Inquisitor. I can see everything that's tagged with Quest or Light Source. But a lot of our systems will actually look at this as well, right? Like our merchant system, these are quest tokens, so you're not going to be selling them. But our merchant system would be looking at, oh, is it a quest item? Is it a scroll? Will I actually buy that? You know, things of that nature. So I make all the items, just boop, 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 boop in the database. I get kind of creative. I get it all done. And once I've got the items, then, okay, well, how do these items make it into the game? So many of these items are going to make it into the game through the NPC quests. So the NPC quest, you can see here, the prompt is basically what you're doing with the NPC to get a response. And so it could be that I'm giving them these 2 items, or it could be that I'm talking to them, say, hail, or I'm asking them a question. And again, for now, a lot of these are done in kind of a fictionally, your interaction may not really be as natural as it should be, but it's also giving you some leeway as far as when you ask the NPC a question. It's not so specific that you're not like sitting there doing a bunch of like, what are the stones? What stones? Who stones? All this shit, right? So, hey, Golden Gloves. And happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Hopefully, you guys are getting up with Thanksgiving on your mind. I ran straight in a few minutes late from basically, I have my entire sort of Thanksgiving everything prepped on top of the stone, so that promptly at stove, so that probably at 5 o'clock I hop up. And maybe a few minutes earlier, I'll hop up and like get the oven warmed up, and then throw the turkey thigh in there, and then, you know, I've got everything ready to basically be thrown in their respective, you know, turn the potatoes on, throw the Brussels sprouts into the air fryer. They're all oiled up and got the bacon bits and shit on it, and then mashed potatoes with horseradish. So they're all cutting in a pot. So did all that before the stream so that I could easily still stream and not flake out on streaming, and then make Thanksgiving, because I love making Thanksgiving. I love Thanksgiving. So it's just going to be 2 of us tonight, but still, it's awesome. So anyway, back to this. You'll see that we got the prompts here, and then we got all the responses, and the responses are where we're, you know, basically firing back both a response, but also giving you items, like I mentioned earlier. Right, so here, this is where an item comes into the world. The other way that an item is going to come into the world most typically is through loot. And so what we can do then is we can go in and I'm trying to remember, how did I wind up doing this? How do I typically do this naturally? I think what I do before I add the loot to the NPCs actually as drops is we've got a number of these bags, and we use recipes to make the combine, because it's similar to like what we got is one of the layers of our trade skills, right? So if you've played a game where you put a couple of items in that match a recipe, and a number of games do this, and then you hit go or hit combine or whatever, that's essentially just a recipe in the back end. And so using that fairly sort of common approach, we do that. And so what we'll do is we'll go into basically the recipes, and we'll define the recipe for all of these. These are all like quest recipes basically, and you'll see here they don't have a skill associated with them, like cooking or tailoring or whatever. Hit replay on that because Robert's music's so awesome. And there's no skill check, right? And so that allows us to come in and make a very, very simple recipe that's not being checked in any way, so there's no failing. And this gives us our name that we then come in and associate with the components. And so if we look at something like, you know, this quest it's a quest bag. You collect young snake venom is the item. That's not what you actually see. If you were to go into the other, back into the item database, you can see that this is just the HID, the human readable ID. And so we go here and it's immature snake venom sac, right? And probably a description here. The venom sac of a still developing snake. All right, well, that's unfortunate for the baby snake, but life happens. Or, you know, grain beetle eggs. And then we can just put the count in there. Like this recipe needs 6 of them. For something like the bag that we were talking about for the nails, here's the item name and then their unique items. For this one, really wanted to make it so you know, there's no temptation to just sit and farm like the same spot over and over or whatever, especially now while we're still waiting on the additional feature to be added for cooldowns and things on the mud actions that we have in the world. And so just made them unique. And so what it does is it takes and looks when you hit combine, are these items 1 through 6 in there? Yes. Okay, cool. Then produce a result. And in this case, if we are looking at ink pet bag, we go into result. And what it does is it then provides a result, which is this item. Over time, we can have multiple results added to this system. We can have randomization on results, randomization on multiple results, all sorts of shit like that. But for now, this is a great, very simple, straightforward implementation. You'll notice as I'm showing all of this, I could also be going in and showing you some of the interface that we've had made for interacting with like items and NPCs and stuff. But just in the name of like, you know, complete sort of transparency, I got to say that when I'm feeling crunched for time at the moment, and really just trying to get stuff done, I gravitate back towards my comfort zone, which is just doing it in the database. And in the future, those interfaces for the DB will make things a lot easier because like if you look, I just walked through 3 different tables just for the recipe, not counting the item. And so as we're working on the interfaces for these, you know, basically a tool layer on top of the database to make it even easier to use, then I would think that if I go to like the recipe tab or tool, it would show all of the fields that I need in one place so I can see them all kind of at once and probably have the items there as well. And then I can kind of, you know, easily access or modify the item there and all this stuff. But honestly, I've worked with either directly, even when I was a producer at like King's Isle, I did design work just so I could see what the team was dealing with tool-wise, because we were reusing a tool from Wizard 101, which was then reused for Pirate 101, and it was going to be reused for the game that we were going to be making 101 that I was on. And so I really wanted to understand the tool to see how much we needed to invest in improving the tools or whatever before we started our project. And it was nice just because it was a nice way to, you know, get to know the team and make some shit. Hey, Dark Inside. See, I said it first thing this morning. And so I've seen tools, you know, over the years, and there are some really great complex tools. There's visual scripting tools and blah, blah, blah. In the kind of MMO that we're making, we're not making a high fidelity sort of Star Wars The Old Republic cinematic experience or whatever. We're making a game that's got some fairly straightforward content that we want to make a shitload of pretty quickly. So our tools need to be focused on speed and delivering the experience that we want at scale and speed. So once you're done showing the quest creation, would you mind stepping through a quest in game to get context for the player view of it? Oh yeah, and honestly, that might have, if I had really sort of scripted out what I need, you know, what I was going to do today, that might have been a cool way to do it and kind of show you. But I also think, because I've walked through sort of implemented quests in the past and started showing it, and I just get so caught up in the world, and like next thing you know, we're running around looking at sunsets and shit, and then because I kind of wanted to do this on Tuesday. It was like, all right. So what I'll do is, I think that's a great idea. I'll run through some more of the database stuff, and then we can go in and look at a quest. And then maybe you'll be able to match those things. And if you're watching Navad, and if this topic interests you, then you can like bounce back and forward or whatever. A couple other things. If the topic interests you and you're like, and you know, either just notice some stuff, or you're an experienced game developer and you look at some of the shit and you're like, why in the world would he do that? Or, hey, that's just crazy, or whatever. Feel free to hit me up, and we can talk about it. I'm always down to kind of get other people's perspective. Like I think I've said a billion times here, I'm absolutely not trying to act like, you know, some brilliant game designer or game developer or whatever that's like, oh, and this is the best way to do shit. This is a way that I've got confidence in. And so, yeah. So we get the recipe result, and that basically is another way for us to get the item, right? So in this case, like the full bag that you then give back to Petra. And that moves you through the next stage of the quest. And then there are drops. And so for us, we've got a loot table. So loot table item group establishes like a list of items that can drop. And they may be something like, trying to see if we've got, right. So like bronze armor. Bronze armor is just a table of all the available armor pieces that could possibly drop at a kill, right? And then a percentage chance. And some of these, as we've changed the tools, and Ollie has done some, I think he's done some passes with code to fix some things or do something that then we need to follow up on and kind of look at and go, did the script do something weird? But like gems common, gems uncommon, or, you know, cloth armor that is now labeled cloth armor due to, I think, Ollie's script, because it's also got like this really interesting drop chance. Anyway, excuse me. This is just the table of the item that could potentially drop. It's just like pen and paper. This is straight from old school pen and paper approach. So you roll your dice and you see what you get. You know, 2 die 10 or a 100-sided die. If we put anything less than 100, then that means that it's got that percentage chance to drop. And so, all right, this one is a 10% drop rate. We can see later on. Hey, Sean Butts. Thank you for 3 months. 10% chance to drop, and it's not something they can equip. Whereas, you know, this fine steel stuff can be equipped. So if it's a skeleton that's got it, or a bandit or a guard or whatever, then they can actually hold it, and we just define it there. So once we've got a loot table, then we can associate that loot table with an NPC. And there are a number of different ways of doing this. And there's some interesting stuff on here that I might have shown off the other day. I was really excited to use it for the first time. And so we come in here and we can either associate it directly with a specific NPC, or with a specific NPC, which is either a unique NPC, maybe it's a named and there's only one of them that will appear, or in the case of like this one, which is WB Skelly War 07, what that is actually linked to then is a NPC file that, or NPC entry, I think is a better way of saying it, that is Wormsbane Skeletal Warrior, and he'll be level 7 probably, right? And so any NPC that any of these Skeletal Warriors can drop this thing. Hey, John. Things are going good. I hope things are going good for you as well. Do you want to have some camps that are much more lucrative than others, or try to keep it balanced throughout a zone? I think inevitably there'll be some camps that are more lucrative. There'll be some camps that maybe have that are less lucrative but have interesting drops that you're going to want to hit. There'll be some camps that you're camping primarily because you're looking at factioning and getting your faction up for a specific reason. And so cash, drops, faction, quest kind of falls into drops, I guess, or faction. And then, yeah, I think some of them might be a bit better in terms of experience. So there's no perfect system, or at least not, we don't have a perfect system for making sure all of this stuff's balanced. So the idea is just to make each camp interesting for some reason, and then look at the distribution of camps throughout the zone. And then as we have more zones, look at the distribution of camps throughout the zones. And so for proof of concept, I was just talking to Nick about this. Like, we have, I went through and just kind of looked at our camps specifically in sort of the level range to make sure that we've got all of the levels covered, and then look at sort of, is one camp maybe of a faction that you'll eventually want to not screw up, or of a faction that you kind of want to work on pumping. All right. So do we have 2 camps in that range and stuff like that? So Pezzy said, I enjoy consistency, so I often end up at less popular camps because I can usually rely on being free of competing players. Yeah. And so there's that idea as well. Sometimes there's just like that little camp, right? Maybe it's an easier pull. Maybe if you're just duoing or something, then that is available. And that's actually part of the camp construction. I don't want to say theory or whatever. Like when we're making a camp, or at least when I'm looking at a camp, I try to think of that as well as, all right, so does one camp support multiple groups, especially these outdoor camps that have that kind of like at lower levels, that feel of, oh, we got a group over here and a group over here kind of pulling from it. And then we can take a little bit of the stuff in the middle or some of the pathers. And then if we do have that kind of camp spread where it can support multiple groups, are there pathers? Are there guards? Are there essentially mobs that are either spawn solo or move away from the camp that allow either a solo player that wants to be able to solo but at a much less optimal sort of rate potentially, like my little Necro on P99, or a duo that can kind of pick them off. And when we're looking at the camp, often we look at the camp's construction in terms of overlapping assist radiuses or radii, and overlapping aggro or sort of awareness radii, so that we then are also able to go, hey, we have this camp and we really want it to be that you've got to break it or crowd control or deal with the fact that you're always going to get 3, or you're always going to get 3 best case, but depending on spawns and pathing mobs, you may get 5 or something. And so it's just kind of like an artistic, creative balance when we're working on camps. And then we'll go in and we'll, I like to go in with invincibility on but aggro on, so that I can kind of face pull a little bit and see. And then we know, because then we know that we're providing a role for lulls, or we're providing a role for feign pulling, or just off tanking something or whatever it is, right? So we want to create like these problems pretty intentionally, and then we want the problems to be relatively dynamic, so that adds a little bit of fun. So I'll do goofy shit with like I like to spawn pathers away from the camp sometimes, and then have them approach the camp in weird ways, especially at night, so that it's one of those things that kind of keeps you on your toes. If you're paying attention, you're good. You've developed sort of the game knowledge. It's probably not going to be a big deal. It's just a free pull, but it is one of those things that may, for other folks, or if you're not watching, or if we've got a kind of a camp that could be 2 groups, but we're pretty good and we're pulling both, it could lead to like an oh shit moment where you've got to use like a game changer ability, or burn a LOH or whatever it is, or have Nick run the extras around in a circle for a minute and a half while you're burning down the ones that are there, right? That type of stuff to me is so much of the fun of camps, especially outdoor camps. And it's a game. It's gameplay. It doesn't have to be a crazy elaborate, scripted system, or don't stand in the fire and fucking safety dance all over the place. And like that stuff's cool, but just creating those interesting sort of like, the opportunities for emergent weird shit to happen with a very low development cost is, what I think is like the bread and butter of a game where people actually are cool with grinding and camping and stuff. So that aside, why do we even kill things? Because we want their stuff. We are the murder hobos that wander around and kill these poor skeletons and were-rats and shit. And so what I've started using for the first time in more recent quests, and again, this is part of that evolution of content and tools. When I worked on DC Universe Online, I did the starting tutorial, the Brainiac ship. I did that over and over and over again. And right before launch, it was probably the 5th time that I made that tutorial. And the reason why we wind up doing the early content over and over again is it's the first content you make, and then you're still learning the systems, you're still getting functionality in place, you're still developing certain best practices or whatever. And so then you go back and fix that shit. Case in point, I've got a handful of quests in for other classes, and now as we're hitting these classes, there's stuff where Ollie's like, oh, you can actually do this cool thing with the database. And it's like, oh shit, let's document that because I didn't realize it. And this is the case here where before, if you look here, all of these skeletons kind of have the same loot tables on them, right? And the other way that we can do this is we can actually just say race skeleton. So it's pointing to the HID for the skeleton, up to level 5. And so any skeleton that is below level 5 will drop this item. We can also add in the zone HID and other variables that make it pretty specific. So it'll be only the ones in the newbie yard, or only the ones in the Wormsbane, or Wormsbane and the newbie yard. Or in this case, it's actually, I thought I had, this is, let me see. Maybe I do. Maybe I'm not lying. I thought I set one up. I thought I did. Oh, maybe I used the tag for something else. I thought I had used a tag, but what we can... Really? I don't? Interesting. I may have found a bug in my implementation last night. Because I could have sworn... And Squawkscom, thank you for the follow. Pezzy said... I remember that Brainiac tutorial. I also did it over and over and over and over, testing various classes, joining friends in different places. Yeah, so, well, I hope you enjoyed it. It was, man, implementing content in that game was so difficult. The tools were just not optimal for what we were doing. Ember Grainify, thank you for the follow. So, you enjoyed the first few runs? Yeah, especially if you're using the different movement modes and stuff. And it was really interesting to try to design around the challenge of movement modes, right? Because you could fly above enemies and run up walls and all that stuff. So this is fortunately simpler. So back on track. The thing that I'm stopping for right now is I could have sworn that for these guys right here, and maybe I just didn't finish the task last night. Maybe I got pulled away on... a discussion last night, and then realized I just was unable... No, I did. Okay. Why wasn't... Oh, you know what? I did the thing. We have enough data in our database now that I actually have to skip to the next. Is that the case? That's only 733 of these. This is a great point. Speaking of tools, so when we worked on DC Universe, it was in Unreal. It was one of the only 2 games at the time that were using Unreal 3, because Unreal 3 was just coming out, and it was us and a Korean game named Huxley. And so, but what we wound up doing is, because we're not making the content that, well, we thought we weren't making the content that requires like Matinee and Kismet, which are now blueprints. We weren't doing a lot of scripted shit, we thought, because, you know, our when we sat in the design meetings with the creative director and the studio creative director, it's like, okay, well, you know, we're making an MMO, we're making content more like what you're seeing here, where we're dealing with hundreds and hundreds and tens of thousands of records. But it's not going to be super cinematic. And then our creative director, once he joined, he came from like console space and never worked on an MMO, and he's like, we need cinematics. And it was like, oh, that's a shame, because we basically gutted Matinee. We got rid of Matinee and Kismet, and so we wound up in this weird state of, we weren't completely just like data driven like this is, if I remember correctly, but we also didn't have the tools to do a lot of like easily placed camera moves and stuff, and so it wound up being this like I could have sworn that it was this weird, like there was data in objects within the game, kind of like we would be doing here, and then we'd have to go in here and open them up, and then they would have data in and we modify the data, and it was just, oh, it's a mess. I'd much rather be in a very simpler data driven system like this, and then just commit to not doing cinematics, or if we're going to do cinematics, then we just build a cinematic tool that these systems trigger, and then it's, you know, it's all good. So if anybody's out there that worked on DC with me and I'm remembering it incorrectly, then please just let me know. But I don't remember us having a nice relational database like this. So back on task. I didn't see this when I just scrolled through before. I thought, oh, I know why maybe I'm missing it. Because I was looking over here for conditions, and it doesn't have a condition, but it does have an example of a better way of doing this. Again, if you're watching this now to kind of just see how our tools work, hopefully all of the interjection isn't throwing you off too much. It's not sidetracking too much. I'm trying to give you a little bit of history and context as we go. So what I've got here is any NPC with the tag Shaded Dunes, Where, Smugglers, that happens to also be a shaman, can drop this item then. And the reason for this is, when you run into these smugglers, they can be in one of 2 states, depending on if it's in day or night, but they retain their class, right, fictionally. And so I set it up that way I didn't have to make, first of all, there's like 5 different level ranges. Also, Nick, it sounds like, was looking at the level ranges and you know, mentioning that we may want to come in and tweak some of those level ranges, and it would suck to have to then go back, and if we tweak the level range and maybe we tweak the NPC name or whatever as part of it, then is all the shit hooked up. And I like the tag system a lot better, because it saved me probably at least 8 entries that had to be made. And cool. And so then that drops off of there. Now, the thing I was looking at before, which is interesting, which we've also started using on quests, and I think I mentioned this on Tuesday, is buff condition. So we've got buff conditions and we've got zone conditions as part of our NPC loot table. And what that means is these items right here are, they're 3 quest items, and they will not drop off of the NPCs unless these conditions are in place. And so this will be a bad example, but like in theory, maybe I'll try to make a better example. A zone condition would be like, is it daytime? Is it nighttime? What time of day is it? Is it raining? Is there a sandstorm? We're going to add in like a lunar cycle. So maybe is it full moons? Is it a specific full moon? All kinds of shit like that to vary it. And what we could have is essentially maybe there's an Ashira running around, or there's some orc somewhere in a different zone, and they will drop like a vial of swirling dust. And the only time that will happen, though, is if you encounter that NPC, the Ashira or the orc or whatever, when there's a strong dust storm. And so what we're doing with this, and with, these conditions also drive spawning. We can determine whether or not something spawns based on different conditions, whether or not you can find or interact with a mud action, and so a world interaction. The goal there is to really drive you as crazy as humanly possible. We want you to essentially have the comments in, on the wiki, or on, like our version of Alakazam or whatever, or the forums. We want it to turn into, like, devolve into like a Lovecraftian conspiracy theory come to life, when you're like, I swear I saw this mob and then I couldn't find it again. And people are going to be like, what time of day was it? What month was it? Was there, was it snowing? All of this type shit. And and really feed into a lot of the fun, like, sort of content theory crafting that goes on, where it's, I know this was different because of that. What did it taste like? Yes, John. Did it taste different when it was raining? So all of that type of stuff, really want to feed into it. And so that's what we can do with zone conditions on the NPC loot table. What's Pazzy say? Tying content into a full lunar cycle opens up some interesting space to give a class like Druid a detect moonphase spell, so they could help people figure out when to go for things. Yes. It makes a whole range of like vision spells potentially helpful, or detect. We haven't, Luna's got some good ideas on this front. And as we get going, I'm sure between like Luna and Nick and myself and others on the team will come up with some interesting shit. But like, that ability to sort of detect a thing, or minor detect, or minor see, magical glyphs or some shit. I'm riffing right now, right? Because, and this gets into the next thing, buff condition. So buff conditions are a condition in this context that is applied to an NPC that lets the game know when it dies that an interaction of a certain type has occurred. And so I requested this from Ollie because I was making the first quests, and I just felt like, okay, we've signed up to do some old school kind of vanilla content. And so the idea of it just being a random drop off of a mob is good enough, right? Like, it's a low percentage drop or whatever, and we can control, whether or not the mob's there. So maybe it's a rare mob with a rare drop. Okay, good enough. But then it's like, wouldn't it be cool if the NPC said, I want like, I want a perfectly pierced goblin skull, and it's the archer, it's an archer quest. Like, bring me a perfectly placed shot. And so it's like, but we can't really do that, because like, I could just be I could be a Inquisitor and whack this guy with a club, and then boom, perfectly pierced skull. No, that's kind of fiction, or that's kind of, sort of, I don't know how far we want to suspend our disbelief or whatever. And so it could be more interesting, more polished. So asked Ali about it, and was like, essentially what we would do now, or what we have done, and it was great seeing this in action, is for these like skeleton femurs, we want them to look, the fiction is kind of bring me back these brittle skeleton femurs, because a femur is like the strongest bone in your body, and if it's brittle, then I know that you've basically sucked the essence out of it, kind of thing. And no, we're not continuing on the taste and taste buds theme, John. A different kind of sucking of essence. And so what I'm able to do now, or what we're able to do, is go in and apply a buff to the existing light or draw strength spell, and that will then, when it lands on the mob, it will put a buff on it, says like draw strength that this table is looking for, and then it will allow this to drop. And the cool part is it's still not a quest flag. It's not something that's just been put on the character. It's like, oh, you successfully completed kill skeleton, roll the dice. Okay, here, let's update your quest journal, which is a more modern way of doing it. But instead, the item will be on the corpse, and everybody can see it and go, oh shit, there's a perfectly placed pierced skull over here, and we can see that it's for the specific class or whatever. And so it's kind of a hybrid between modern and old school. These buff conditions can also be placed on the player, and interaction can look for that. And so that's something actually I did not log when I was putting in here in my sort of special things. And so to look at my breakdown, we have the items, which now we're looking at how they get into game. And I think that summarizes most of it. And then we have NPCs. And so we've got the guild folks. We've got some new NPCs that I needed to create. We have existing NPCs that I needed to add these tables to, in these three. And then I flag like, special work that needs to be done, which I did put all of the recipes down here as part of that. You can see that's done. The last thing that needs to be done is I need to make the mud actions, the environmental interactions, that get you the spikes as one stage of the quest. And in talking through this with you, I realized I need to make a note for oh, actually I don't. I'm handling that a different way. These mud interactions or these mud actions are going to look and see if you've got the item in your inventory. That's right, I said that earlier. Hey Pattis, happy Thanksgiving. So Pazzy says, oh, so if someone wants a burnt rat breast, when the game is looking for the rat to die, then the game is looking for the rat to die while being attacked by fireball spell, so it will drop burnt rat breast. Correct. Avarice says, hello, this looks awesome, man. Wonderful job. Thank you very much. It's good to meet you. Yeah, and so aside from adding in the interactions, which are handled here, let me show you. I tend to be, it's hard for me to focus and like do work when I'm streaming. Apologies for that, because I'm just my focus is so split on answering questions or seeing who's come in or whatever that sometimes it's a bit hard. But I can walk you through the functionality really easily. So we'll see. So if you look here, we actually have a lot of new entries, and what that's from is Luna has been going in and adding in a lot of like just descriptive entries. So if you walk around Night Harbor and you get into a new district or whatever and you hit look, you'll get some nice flavor text. I don't want to ruin any too many for you or whatever, but it's the kind of stuff where when you get in, you can look and it'll say, like, depending on if it's day or not. In this one, she's written, the midday sun beats down upon the sojourners' camp as the tents provide meager shade from the blistering rays. Some sojourners are fixing wagon wheels and making repairs on tents, while others rest in the shade, awaiting the night's respite from the heat. Right? And so, for those of you that like where we're going with like this interesting, I think it's interesting, hybrid of like kind of a more muddy, multi-user dungeon, text adventure layer back within our 3D MMORPG, then it's meant to really just kind of continue to feed into that vibe. And a lot of these, you know, like the description ones are going to be optional. So it's, if it's your thing, cool. And then others are really very gameplay focused. And it may be that if you've got a certain skill that is going to be fed to you when you walk over, it's like, oh, you notice a breeze coming from a crack in the wall, and then that leads you to an interaction that allows you to open a secret door. Or like we've got, you notice a glimmer between the tiles, and that is a little quest pickup. And it's going to be looking to see whether or not you're the one that needs to pick it up in the first place. And so what we'll be doing here is we'll be making 4 new interactions. And what we'll do is we'll go in the world, we'll find the location, we'll create the new entry. We'll have the prompt, right? Which is basically they're all 4 going to be looks. And so because you're going to be following the NPC, and when the NPC stops somewhere for a moment, they're going to stop, and that you've been told to watch and see where they stop, and then when they move on to come and then use the stone that you have to illuminate this thing that's invisible to everybody else and then take it. And so what this will do is it'll be a simple look. If you look here, we've got, or I'll do a higher one so you can see it. LOK for look. At these coordinates, we don't need a prompt because you're looking. And then it'll give you some information. It'll be like you see a small ornate spike sticking from the wall, blah, blah, blah. And then I need to figure out, and I'm probably not going to do it here, but I need to figure out what interaction I want next. And the thing is, we have pull. So maybe it'll be a pull interaction, right? And the prompt, though, on the look, this is key. As I'm explaining, I'm forgetting a detail. The look will actually have a prompt because it's going to be an item requirement. So if we come... Where is it? So if you look at this, it's a pry one, and the pry is looking for you to have an item that is tagged as knife. And this is an older one. This is another one. So if you inspect the stone on this one interaction that we have for a quest, it's looking to see if you have an item charcoal. And actually, this should also have parchment. So I should probably just fix that right now. Item parchment. Because you need to have both of those, because you actually, the description is that you rub the charcoal over the parchment and then you get the inscription. And then you take it back to somebody. And this is cool because we can hide that type of thing around. Once you learn that mechanic exists, maybe everywhere where you see ruins and glyphs and things like that, you can go buy yourself some parchment, go buy yourself some charcoal, do a rubbing, collect those, maybe combine those in a book, maybe give those to somebody. Maybe that increases your archaeology skill. And shit like that, right? And so that's the kind of game that we're making. Ever says, it's nice to see fresh ideas in the MMO scene. Everything been so stale for years. I appreciate that. I think everything's just, I don't know that it's been stale because a lot of the stuff is fun when we first play it. And then we kind of realize, we've seen this before. But what we're trying to do is take some stuff that you've, depending on your age, maybe you haven't seen it before, but if you grew up playing Zork or, Leather Goddess of Phobos or old CRPGs and, MUDs and things, we're just trying to take some of that lower fidelity but higher imagination interaction and put it back into a 3D world, because why not? And for us, we can't hire 300 animators and artists to make every bobble and unique animation and all this other shit. So and then over time, while we're doing some stuff, maybe we can come back and link something like the pull command, and have it be like when you use pull prompt, you'll see maybe an animation or something later. We'll up our fidelity as we go. Pazzy says it'd be very I would be very interested if I saw an archaeology stat in guild. Well, there's an archaeology skill in game already, I believe. And then we can check that skill over here. Let me make sure that parchment is actually how I implemented this item. So let's save that. If we come here, pop in an item, parchment is called parchment. Perfect. Then that will work. Archaeology quest sounds interesting, but if an NPC starts with, I need you to rub something for me, you're out. I think you're... is that confession through projection through confession? I think you really, really want an NPC to ask you to rub something. I think that's the case, John. You grew up on Asheron's Call? Perfect. There are some great ideas in Asheron's Call that that we've talked about for quite a while. When Bunny was on the team, she was bringing up the Asheron's Call's world events and, you know, all sorts of stuff all the time. We're trying to borrow a little bit from all of the games of that era. So cool. We've got this. Basically, what I'm going to do is, at some point, oh geez. Oh, I think maybe Luna updated these to be just way out of the way because she didn't want to delete them yet. But I'm pretty sure we're going to be able to delete these. So let me make a note and I'll come back to it. So note, delete mud 9,000. I'll know what that is. Cool. So, and what that winds up looking like is this. Hey, little buddy dog. We'll load the... We are in Night Harbor. Let's load the appropriate data set, actually. We'll load Night Harbor. Enable. This basically pulls all of the data, spawn data and other similar like ground spawn, basically spawn data. It pulls that into our scene view here so that we can kind of see what we're working with in the database. So all the data that you're looking at before, well, not all of it's represented here, but like all of the spawning data is in here. So hold on one second. What I'm going to do, hello, Saddle Tender. I'm going to trick my puppy into coming up here for a minute, and then I'm going to put him in his crate. So come here, buddy. Say hi to everybody. Usually this happens later in the stream, but he's being needy today. On Thanksgiving, I am thankful for my puppy. All right. So I'm going to gently toss him in his crate, which is right here. And then we're going to continue to go through this. One of these days, he's going to learn not to jump on my lap. And that'll be sad. Okay, so when we're working on adding NPCs, essentially what we do is... Oh, burps. Excuse me. We either create a new NPC, which oftentimes is similar to how we created a new item earlier, which is we'll come in and we'll find one that looks or behaves or, you know, is similar to what we're looking for. Instead of just making a new record from scratch, we'll just right click, we'll duplicate it with all of its data, and then we'll just go through and we'll adjust it as needed to be what we want. So it may be an appearance adjustment, it may be a level adjustment or change its class or whatever. So then we take that NPC and we associate the NPC with, and this is another pen and paper kind of concept, similar to our loot table item group. Like what what items may drop when we kill this NPC, roll the dice. It's the same thing as if you're reading a pen and paper manual and you've got the encounter table and it's like roll the dice and see, is it a aardvark? Is it a orc? What is it? And so we come down and we make a new. Why it's funny. The second NPC spawn group, the second I start streaming, it's so hard for me to like think. And so we'll come up with a name for it. We'll name it something interesting. And man, it's crazy how fast 20 minutes go by listening to the same song over and over again. And it's like a 21-minute loop. But even with me talking this fast, time is blasting by. And I'm not necessarily showing you everything yet. So, and what we have is, let me find one of these. If it's a very specific NPC, it'll be the only thing on its encounter table, and it'll have 100% chance of spawning. If we want it to be a rare, maybe it's here. So it may look more like this, where it's Smuggler's Cove, and we've got a fairly even chance of everything spawning with one rare. You can check my math on this. It's possible that the encounter table is wrong, but our encounter table should add up to 100. Right, so it's out of 100% chance, boom, throws one of these guys up there. And then what we do is we take this, and then we associate that with a zone spawn. So this is the table, but we rarely work in the table. Instead of working in the table, what we do is once we've got that, we find a nice open area within the zone spawn table for us to do some work, and we'll come through with our tool, which is this zone panel right here. Nick, I'm still thinking most of the time it's easier for me to dock it over here out of the way than it is to have it like up beside here. And I can't move these over and like double it up. It's just too much on one side. It makes my brain hurt. Anyways, that was an aside for Nick. Because we were talking about best practices and stuff within the tool. But what we have here is essentially this allows us to associate a encounter table with a specific spawn point. Let's just say if it's day or night, if there's a condition associated with it. So maybe it's only nighttime when it's raining or during a sandstorm or whatever. All those conditions we talked about earlier. Or it could be triggered. And so it could be no spawn. And so it doesn't spawn when the zone comes up. There's no respawn. But if this trigger happens, then it spawns it, right? And so for triggered spawns like an ambush or a triggered event or, there's a world event or whatever. And, a bunch of other things. I won't necessarily walk through all of these unless you're like, hey, that we really kind of curious, then sure. But, ooh, yeah, I forgot the new tenets are in. Then we take that and we can do create at click. And wherever we click in the scene view, it'll drop one of these little goblins. And once we've got a little orb here, then we can actually come in here and we can manipulate its position. We can move it around. We can change its facing. We can update the data. Then we just grab the latest data. We hit save, and then that just writes it back into our database. And for the NPCs that I'll be putting in for this specific quest, what we wind up doing is we place the NPC. And once the NPC is there, we can start adding commands to it. And so when this NPC spawns, what does it do? And in this case, he spawns, he looks out over the desert for 30 seconds. He then goes to his first go-to point. He then goes, he goes to his first go-to point. If it's nighttime, then he'll actually, instead of going back up, so this guy, he's kind of a creep. He's not a very nice guy. He comes down here and he just kind of is like observing what's going on here, right? He's kind of a snoop. And so if it's not nighttime, he'll come down here, he'll wait for 60 seconds, and then he'll walk back up to where he spawned, right? And if it is nighttime, what he'll wind up doing instead is when he's done hanging out here, or actually, is it even when he's done hanging out here? He'll go down. Okay, if it's nighttime, I forgot. Instead of snooping, because maybe these guys aren't here at night, I was just thinking ahead. He'll leave the building and he'll walk over to the inn and he'll come up to the bar. Our NPC say is the command is not working at the moment, so I keep meaning to write a bug on that and like get it fixed or validate that it really truly isn't working before I write a bug. But he'll come up in here and be like, hey, you know, so and so. It's not Wallace. Wallace is next to him. I forget what I named the barkeep. Blah blah blah. Give me a beer, and then he'll walk up. Well, up here. Blah blah blah, and go in here into this room. Which we've got really cool looking doors now that will be placed. And so he'll come into this room and he'll wait for a little bit and he'll depop. And then he'll come back the next day. So that's kind of what that's what this guy does. And so what we're going to be doing, well, what I'm going to be doing, probably not today or with you guys today, is I'm going to find 3 different interesting sort of spawn points in here for these travelers that you're looking for. And they're going to spawn and then they're going to walk and they're going to stop somewhere. Maybe like one of them stops right here and then goes through and then maybe, you know, stops like right here. And what we're going to have then at the end of that is this location. The location of this stop point, when I add the command, it's going to tell me the position, right? Like right over here. When we look at commands, like if I go back to, if I click on any of these, maybe I can find a go-to. Let's find, oh yeah, because I'm clicking on the wrong thing, of course. So like if I go to the one that we were looking at before, I can see where I put his go-to, which we're going to have because the guy goes to somewhere and then he stops. He's going to have a go-to and a pause. And so wherever that go-to is, I can just get these coordinates. Like if you look here, expand it, I'll get these coordinates and that will be the coordinate for my, my mud interaction. So that makes it easy for me to copy that data over and know they're consistent. And then what that'll be is that'll be the thing that we were talking about earlier, where you come up and if you're holding the stone that allows you to see the invisible object, you can interact, you can pull it out of the wall, you put it in the bag and keep going. And so, and what I'll probably do is I want to find a nice way to wrap them up. And so maybe they'll start somewhere, they'll walk, they'll stop like 2 places, and then they'll go somewhere else and like go through a door or something, and that'll be that. Or it could be we'll spawn them, we'll have them stop 1 or 2 places along a route, and just because I think we've only got the 1 tavern at the moment. Oh, we've got another one back there, but I don't want to use that one. What we'll do is we'll just have them walk all the way back around and they'll come in and they'll hang out in one spot over here, because I actually wanted to put the 3rd one down in the basement because, spoiler alert, when you follow this guy, things will not go as planned. So, Golden Gloves asks, oh, sorry, Pazzy said above that. I'd sit and learn about everything if I could, but that's probably not in the not the best public stream. Well, I mean, it's not much different than what's going on at the moment, huh? Golden Gloves says, any thoughts on chances of rare spawns increasing over each spawn cycle that doesn't pop? to kind of guarantee you'll see something at least once per X amount of time. As a standard for the system, no. If I had to say offhand, maybe not. Because that kind of may lead to like some weight farming, which then creates like a sense of, well, if you assholes didn't go camp this guy every once in a while, it'd be easier for us to get the rare spawn, you know, kind of thing. Yeah, I think it's a matter of, one, you got to learn what's where, and then, you know, if you're kind to the community, you can put it on a wiki or something. And then if you want what's there, then you just got to go and put in the chair time. But for certain spawns, we could possibly do stuff like that. We could play around because we can manipulate a lot of these values pretty easily. So we can have certain spawns be kind of interesting in that way. But if it's for a newbie quest, it might be worth pathing near some useful places. That's a cool idea, Patsy. That is, see, and that's the kind of stuff that like, oh shit, great idea. That one, you kind of figure out later as you're going, you're like, oh, let me kind of do that with some of the other quests as well. Two, really happens a lot in the way that we're making this game with you guys, and you guys are giving the ideas and feedback and stuff. It's really made this process a lot better than it could have been, right? So it's really cool to see how much great stuff comes out of your suggestions. So, and I'm not just saying that shit to be nice or whatever. It's true. I was actually talking about that earlier. I was, you know, like I said, I was chatting with Hidden Tree a little bit, and I was just talking about how much of value has come out of doing an open development process. Because, you know, originally, kind of first and foremost, the idea was to try to make this as educational about the industry and about game development as possible, based on, you know, the experience that I have. Again, not saying that's like massive or anything. Strange Day, good morning, and good morning all. Happy Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving to you. I hope it winds up being a rad day. So, yeah, that'll be the thing. Like, let me make a note really quick on that. That's because we got a couple cool notes in here now. Mods for each traveler's step.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Zeitgeist 9000. Thank you very much. Happy Thanksgiving. Helps with ideas you may not have thought of and gives the community a sense of real input. Yeah. I mean, there's all sorts of potential downsides to doing this way, but screw it. It's worth it. Hey, Hawfunk. Happy Turkey Day. So the path around something useful, end at in. Oh yeah. That'll be cool. So they go to the table where the third guy is, and the third guy, then you don't see him move anywhere, and he'll leave the table that they meet him at and go into the basement, and you follow him. That's gonna be cool. This is like a movie ad. Forget that I even said that, and then be surprised again when you see it. To meet third goes to basement. Bang. All right, this is fun. That'll be good. Okay, and so I might actually put that in a second. I might actually put this in a second. Let me see. We are running into some different issues in the last week. And we'll see if I can get in. Have I pulled latest? Let me get into GitHub and see. Hey Keebs, what's going on, buddy? NPC could pass by a vendor and say, "Hi X, anything interesting today?" And vendor could reply with a seemingly random item. You mean like that they have in their inventory? We can't mine the data for string token, or we can't mine the inventory data or merchant inventory data for string tokens yet. But I would like to have that so that maybe in the hail text, it could be like, you hail a merchant and he's like, hi, you know, hi, human. Have you, probably wouldn't say that because you're human, right? Like, hello, paladin. Have you seen the wonderful kite shield that we have? That kind of thing or whatever. How's the world of M&M? What groundbreaking thing have you invented this week? I don't know if it's groundbreaking, but if you check the VOD, we've been going through like the current state of the tools and quest implementation for the last 1 hour and 45 minutes and 10 seconds. So there's a little bit there to peep. Yeah, so let's see. I should be able to get in. So let's, for those of you that maybe haven't seen the game, is there anybody in here that hasn't, because we've got a couple new follows. Anybody in here that hasn't actually seen the game? You've only been listening to me talk for the last hour and 45 minutes or whatever? Because it may be pretty cool to see what you think of the game. Bart Mamzer. You fall into that category? Very cool. Let's see if we can get in. Things have been, a little touch and go this week, which is extremely rare for us. But they have been. I forget what it was that was creating the issues before. Usually we have some nice music that pops up here, but I had just turned the volume down during a last play session because we were chatting in Slack, I think. And I was like, I couldn't hear anybody. So who am I using? Oh, this is broken. It's not showing me. Wait, did it ever change? Did it change? No, it didn't change, actually. If I just imagine that functionality being there, because I know Nick was just mentioning that we needed that. Interesting. Yeah, it's a bummer I have the music turned down. Otherwise, you'd be listening to really great music already. So let's get into the game. Let's turn up our music. And then... Well, there we are. We are in game. So far, loading is pretty long. Yeah, that's... So that'll happen because I'm playing in the editor, and every once in a while when I've pulled all of the latest, there's some rebuilding that goes on in the background. So if I was using, if you see here, basically I'm not playing in our actual client that you can download and install. I'm still in Unity, and the reason why I tend to do that is because I like to be able to, in Unity, when we're doing this kind of work, for example, I will be on the server playing, and at the same time, I'll go in and do data implementation work. Here, you'll see it pop up again in a second. And so this is all of that data that we were looking at before. I see somebody running and they're glowing and they're running super fast, so they're cheating. And that's Nick. Okay, great. Nick said zone loading will go down when we migrate to full dots, according to Ali. Well, that should be good. Have you been seeing longer load times using the regular client? Because I've just always assumed a lot of that was the fact that I'm running it in editor. So let me actually turn our music up so that it's not so quiet. More dots. More dots. Okay, stop dots. John, that is a 50 DKP a minus. Let me know if the music is too loud. Do you have... Oh, Hell's Ridge. Happy Thanksgiving. Guys, I'm going to say Happy Thanksgiving a lot because I really love Thanksgiving. I'm so excited to cook when we're done here. I'll probably hop up in like 30 minutes and just get the oven preheating, and then it'll only take 1 minute. And everything is set out and ready to... Oh, this crazy door right now. Every time an NPC goes to walk through the door, it goes crazy. And so the yeah, so I like it. What's Thanksgiving about? Thanksgiving for me is all about getting an opportunity to cook nostalgic food for someone, even if it's just myself. But I love being able to cook for my wife, or you know, when we've had company in the past. Really rad. Oh man, this door is so crazy. That's the sound the abyss makes when it stares back. Cooking, overeating, being thankful. The remembrance of traditions. Yeah, that door, man, it gets a little weird. Gotta fix that. Pattis just made the really badass looking doors to replace these. Oil the gate quest win. Fair question. Gold Gloves asked, do you have any concept art for how signage will look in the city? Signage is underway. It came up on Goblin's list, so we'll probably have a better view on that. The animator who joined our team not too long ago, Erkenstaff, he's actually done some really nice ass signs for another game in the past as well. Bart Mamzer says, sorry, I need to run. Pick up my kid. Nice music. Thank you very much. Have a great day. Be safe. The screaming door has become lore now. I think it has to stay. Schwanite, there needs to be a screaming door somewhere. It's kind of like the screaming mace of doors. What was there? Was there one more above that I missed? Okay, Hallfunk said, have you fleshed out trade skills yet? EQ style, WoW style, Vanguard, EQ2 style, something else. So Luna has done a really nice overview write-up on the crafting part of trade skills. And it's something that it's on my list like all week to basically follow up with feedback and sort of questions about next steps on. I'll say it this way. In the case that we find that it's just winds up being the best thing for us to start with a simpler, like a much simpler system. Why didn't discharge? Then we may wind up going that route, just kind of simple and familiar, more of like a like very old school approach. If we have the ability to clearly articulate the system and the different facets of the system, because the proposal so far is one where you've got some crafting that you can do that is part of like a downtime while you're at a camp type activity, some crafting that is more part of the inherent to like the environment, so working in a collaborative way with like others in essentially a crafting station type environment. And then another element, which is essentially things where you're using appointment mechanics to like you get something brewing, or you get something that's fermenting, or you start a process that you can come back to later. Which for us, given that we are not going to put any sort of like gross way of mitigating that. Anything to mitigate that mechanic time will be part of natural gameplay and part of the economy and ecosystem that we set up here. I think those are actually pretty interesting. sort of like back in early Eve before you could essentially mitigate that through other things. It was just part of the natural course of gameplay and economy. So there's some ideas there, but for me, whenever I see a system that has multiple sort of facets or additional complexity, what I want to see then is how quickly we can turn that into something that's tangible and actionable with these, and then make the decision of how we want to drive forward with it. If we wanted to do sort of the Minecraft EQ, put 4 things in a container, hit combine, see what output there is, we already do that, and we've already got some recipes in that do that. So at a minimum, we've got that already. And so then the question is, how much do we want to invest beyond that? Ollie is a huge fan of, trade skills and crafting in other games and various like what's the term for it? The various games where you're, building factories and shit like that. And so I'm sure there's going to be an excitement and involvement in there. Luna's ideas, they sound really cool. They're really cool. I want to now like diagram those out and see kind of what they are. Not city builders, but maybe builder game is the right term, but not necessarily city, John. And who is this? Is this a player over here? Oh no, it's a pup eating a skeleton. And so, yeah, we'll work on it, and put together a plan and really just kind of look at feasibility and how to move that forward. Because I like the ideas. I just want to make sure that they're doable, and we don't find ourselves like knee deep in a sort of complex mess that's not really doing the thing that we want it to do. So that's coming up. We're actually talking about that right now. Is it possible to max out crafting without doing anything in combat? I was a big fan of that in UO and Eve, just being a crafter, ignoring typical RPG stuff. So another point with crafting, which is good, is also creating those opportunities for people with different play styles to still contribute to the sense of place. We want a lot of the materials to come into that system though through adventuring. And so whether that's just creating a dependency or interdependency with adventurers and people that are more crafting focused, or gatherers and crafters, or however we do it. I can't say 100% at the moment because we just haven't started on the system, but we do want to, we basically want to help use that to make the game more social and create a sense of place. And from what I've read so far, I think the ideas are there that'll do it. Now it's going to talk about what's going to be needed to deliver on that and how much how safely we can actually deploy the idea without it turning into like a sort of a wish list of concept, and instead it's actually a system that we understand. To Keeps' point, is the sky random or do those planets mean something? The moons do mean something and exist in lore. The sky itself, Ollie put together, I believe, procedurally, and we're probably going to be modifying that over time. We just wanted something to look at. And then you'll probably see stuff like constellations and things like that in there as well. Excuse me. John says, I've done a horrible job today of telling you who we are. This is our website. Here's our Discord. If you're new here and you like what you see, then check us out there. And our mailing list. I've been forgetting that lately, but we're up to probably around 2,200 people now, and we let you know when the update comes out, monthly update, which will be probably in the next week or so. So check it out, and then we'll have more news about other stuff when. Oh, what's going on here? I'm playing with the new hair. So I'm waiting for it to become daytime, because when it becomes daytime, the door will open on its own. And the game looks a little twitchy right now because I'm moving a little too fast. But Paul Funk says, I've thought a bit about the tedium involved in crafting just for the purpose of skilling up. It's a grind like adventuring, but without your friends and tactical gameplay. It's just so boring. It's funny you mentioned that, Hoffunk. So one of the things that Luna wrote in her proposal is that to skill up on certain things could use more downtime activities. And so like the example, and don't take this as like I'm being attacked. Help, I'm being oppressed. Come on, you funky lever. So it's funny you mentioned that because the thing that was one of the things that was proposed by Luna in her system write-up was that there may be things, and this was the thing I was sort of prefacing. Don't just use the example. So if there's an item that's over time you're basically just continuing to refine or hone or polish or shape or whatever, it gives you a downtime activity that instead of like just hitting click and producing another thing that you're going to merch, like sell or throw away or whatever, or producing 500 pommels that you can't use or whatever, you would essentially do some basic working on this thing. So I'm constantly whittling on my this totem, or I've got a downtime activity that helps me skill up in certain skills that then as they've been skilled up, when I get back to the city, I can more actively work with other trade skillers and stuff to build this thing. And it's a more active process. And then maybe I then, take the blade and dip it in acid or whatever that is meant to cure it. And then I come back the next day, that type of stuff. So it's like 3 different modes where you've got downtime activity that's still beneficial to do. You've got more station driven activities that you can work with guilds or other players or NPC guilds to kind of work on bigger projects. And then you've got these appointment mechanics that can be employed. So her proposals it's a real fun sounding setup. And so I'm excited to like actually dig in it after the holidays and this weekend and basically look and go, all right, let me camp and switch to my other character because they're cooler looking, and figure out exactly what it would take to sort of get this going, what we like about it, and how to ensure that it's a system that we think we can act on. So yeah. But that was a good question. It's rad that it's handled in our proposal. So yeah. Did I miss anything else? Mooncats? Probably not Mooncats. All right, so this is my actual play character. This guy I've been playing legitimately, even when I'm even when I'm testing some stuff, like running around showing stuff. I've tried, I haven't cheated on him at all. I haven't had a chance to like play him recently. So he's just over level 5.5. And it's taken a bit. The fact that he's wearing like a shawl that's got the incorrect graphic on it is a great reminder to get in there and work on getting some of the new arts on those things. But you can see he's got the cape, he's got a backpack, just kind of showing off both. Those of you that are new here may have the question of, all right, so if I've got is everybody going to have a backpack? Because almost everybody has a backpack in their inventory. And if you look, we're actually representing these items on you. And in the future, they can be flasks or bottles or books or any number of cool things, quivers. We'll put toggles in our options to let you show or not show those items. So yeah, if you have not seen our game before, I'm going to run through a little bit as part of just like the process of looking at kind of maybe where I want to add these NPCs in a little bit. And then also show off a little bit of the environment to you. This is super cool. Run down here. Actually, you know what? It seems like the super crazy cool door that Pattis is working on, it might be cool to have them around the sort of garrison naval yard as well, making it defensible. It's funny, the city's so big that now that I think about it, in order to show those of you that are like really new here, enough of the city, I'm gonna have to go over into scene view and like fly around. So let's do that now. So we've got the market district. And this sprawl continues on over here. The tannery area. Travelers district here. John said, the Screaming Gate sounds like a necro spell. Summons a bunch of low-level skeletons that taunt the mob while the necro gate's out. That's a fun oh shit. The Necro and SK guild area. The Druid and Shaman Beastmasters are, I think, all being put in this park area. Yeah, and for those of you that have been following as well, you'll still probably like this. We'll run through here. That's not too far. I can make it to this. I can show you firsthand. Here, let me make this bigger. The harbor area that Balu has been working on is really coming together. It's going to be a fun space. John said it's really neat to see this coming together and building out. Yeah, and it's funny. So there are some artifacts here with that I'm pretty certain have to do with essentially we've divided the city into multiple subscenes within Unity. And so we're loading all the subscenes together, and then you're kind of crossing in from one scene to another. So we're finding a little bit of some goofiness that we have to clean up with that, but it's pretty cool that we can get it to work that way. Oh man, I'm excited to see the ships and stuff. So Baloo was just saying, it's so much easier for me to say Simon. Baloo was just saying that, you know, if we like essentially the layout and how things are coming together, then he can, I can imagine there being a little NPC over here that you meet. Ship to ship combat, not at launch. Keebs, and you know this. Harbor Master pet class with attack boats. Attack boats are extremely formidable. I know, it's from the old EQ days. And then over time, we actually started joking about it more and more. It's like, because Ollie heard it, and he knows, naturally, he knows the meme. But then we're like, yeah. Element alphas. Sorry. Good morning. Yeah, so the database stuff that I was showing earlier, you know what? Now that I realize we've just kind of gotten away from it. If you enjoyed it, if you like that, let me know. Hit us up in Discord. What I can do is I can go through some of the other implementation as well and see what you think. But yeah, that was essentially my quest workflow. And that covered a nice chunk of it. And you could probably see just through the documentation and stuff kind of what I think is a fairly decent standard for writing stuff up and keeping it organized and getting going. And if at some point in the future we find that we need more assistance, you know, kind of spoiler alert, that first hour and 30 minutes or whatever it was, it contains some I guess formatting and practices that if we were to see it again, I'd probably be like, oh, excuse me, this person knows what's up. So I'll just throw that out there. Cool, man. This harbor area is almost done. It's really coming together. May come in here and move some of these NPCs around in a second. Yeah, so Balu was saying if things are looking good, which they are. Oh, cool. Then as he wraps up the layout portion of it, he'll come in and start blasting on interiors. Loving Robot. Yeah, Nick, it's really coming together. I'm so jazzed for what we can do in terms of the different feel of content in the different factions and the different stuff that we can put in each of these districts. And it's still an easy city to navigate. It's still got nice thoroughfares. But it's just, you can get lost in the little side scrolls. So this area is going to continue to come together. And then it'll get into the river bends area, which is more of a kind of rundown adventure-y area. And yeah, so, and the more Nick, we were talking about like, Goblin was asking about things to do and stuff, last night. And the more I ran around in here, the more I was just like, let's see if between, Baloo or Harrison or Goblin, like if we just got like maybe half a dozen, they can still be fairly placeholdery, but half a dozen environment textures. And see, like, I'm excited to see what Simon. I'm sorry, Baloo just always makes me say blue, and it seems weird. So I'm just gonna say Simon. See, you know what Simon does when he sort of builds things out with the textures and stuff, because I really think it'll come together. Look at this little area here that's kind of emerged now. This, I don't know what they're called. There is a name, and I was born in Florida, so I should know every kind of weird, like canal, water thing, but it's like this little canal that's come out of here is really, really cool as well. So, inlet? Maybe it's an inlet? Can it be both? So, 3PO asked, what do you mean by loading more scenes? So this is not one big world. It's more scenes put together. How did you guys manage to make the without loading and being that seamless? So we'll probably wind up putting zone lines in, just because there's going to be so much data and so much stuff being rendered and so many lights and stuff. I've got to imagine that we're going to eventually put zone lines within the city to break up districts. But let me show you what we're doing for now. If I come here, we've got, it's funny. I see it right off the bat if I don't have the game loaded. So, and that may be because if it's running, then it doesn't have it. Let me see. Subscene loader. So we have the subscene loader. And what this is it's basically loading each one of these subscenes. So when people are working on this giant map, like if we look here, right, this city is really quickly proving itself to not be anything resembling a joke, right? So what we've done is we've subdivided these areas into like West Newbyard, North Newbyard's up there, Necropolis is over here at the top of the screen, so north. The Garrison is over here, Dock are down here. I'm not sure how much of that is, I think it's all maybe within Docks here. High Point Terrace is up here. The Bends will kind of be around here. Sage Side will be on the other side of the dome. It's like a mage sort of university library area. And so they're all basically, these are unique scenes or sub-scenes that then get loaded in together. And then we're currently moving through them seamlessly, as you saw. But for both efficient optimization reasons and for gameplay reasons, because one of the things I'm really excited to like finish my current work up, even though I've got stuff that I said I was going to get done this month, I'm probably not going to get done this month. But one of the other things I really want to do is, as an example, is I want to populate the garrison and do a population pass of the garrison with the NPCs basically not just being like set dressing type NPCs or, ambient NPCs. NPCs are just like, why are they there? I'm going to try to do them in a way where they bring the scene to life, but it's with camps in mind. So in theory, if you're the appropriate level, you could come in.
Very excited.
Awesome. Very excited as well, but I'm amped that you're excited. Thank you for 2 months. It's funny, I almost said your name wrong. For whatever reason, that F looked like a T. So, Soldier's Fate. I still said it wrong. Anyways, thank you for 2 months, bud. Yeah, if you want to, Pattis. Otherwise, this is meant to be more of an experiment, and I'm happy to move stuff around. If you finish it out, great. But what I wanted to do is take, even if it's just like this dock area down here, and turn it into what could be reasonably played as a couple of camps. And the reason why I mention that now is because when we divide the zone up with zone lines, again, one of the reasons why we like zone lines is because we don't have leashes. Mobs will chase you, and you may want to have a spot that you can get away to if you're coming in here and fighting. And the idea that we've been discussing is basically it's a massive city, but these buildings will include player housing, guild housing, player shops. They will include a lot of just adventure content in the city itself, right? And so imagine if you got 3 or 4 or 5 factions that are in conflict. And when you go into these different districts and you run into the population there, or you run into different NPCs, you'll start to get a feel for where you're welcome, where you're not welcome, and be able to work and build up faction in one area or the other. And again, this isn't like a big crazy like dynamic. We're not promising anything crazy in saying that. It's essentially the same thing we've just been doing out in Shaded Dunes and setting up the camps and stuff there. So yeah. Zigrash said, wow, I fall a few weeks behind in my viewing and there's so much progress. There's always something going on, right? But I appreciate that. Bit O'Brien, thank you. Player housing and guild housing is one of the few places I think instancing has good value. Potentially. We can already do player housing and guild housing though in game using this the volume system that Ali created. And so what it's starting to get dark. Or no. I turned off because I did a search, I turned off the sky. It's weird how Unity will do that sometimes. Man, I love it when day night changes. It's gonna be so exciting to run through this city. I get so amped. But this city's just it's gonna have so much like of a different vibe as you're running through it, depending on time of day and all this other stuff. So excited for it. Anyway, you don't care about that. What I was going to say is Ollie's already got a volume set up. He showed me when he first implemented it, where if I'm not part of the... Oh, and I was just documenting this, actually. If I don't have permission, I can't enter the volume, right? And so, so essentially, we can already set up spaces that are owned spaces. So, you know, in theory, it could already like simulate some player housing in that sense, right? Because I could have a key that is my key to open the door, and I can basically be assigned to own that space, or my group or my guild could, and then we could go in and out. So maybe we'll have to do that soon. Can't wait till I'm running through the city. Oh, there's Nick. Running through the city at night and get jumped by a shifty gnome. A shifty gnome will not jump you, but there will definitely be other folks that will. Shifty gnome's not very violent, friend. Well, there may be a shifty gnome out there that is, so I take that back. Pezzy said I should head out and get some chores done. Thanks for the stream. Really enjoyed learning about the quest creation. Ah, and thanks for all of your questions during it. Made it fun. Imagine having a house near the Screaming Gate. Better get a discount on the rent. Hey, Vagrant. Yeah, so those of you that have not seen the game before, yeah, this is part of it. This is our big old city. And yeah, this is along the docks, Vagrant. So I see what Zukin was saying about the hair now. So what I was telling Zukin was the same thing about the backpack. So if you look here along these edges, the way that lighting's currently working on the character's light source is kind of causing these glows. So that'll be a thing for us to fix. I wonder if we just need to have like faces blocking on the other side. Kind of similar to the glowies going on with the hair cards right now. I think it's like lighting up part of the face. Yeah. That's the fun thing. We're early. We'll figure it out. We'll get it fixed. It's awesome. So, yeah, those of you that are absolutely new, check out our YouTube, bounce around. You'll see some good dungeon gameplay. We'll see Shaded Dunes gameplay and design work. If you came in here in the last 20 or 30 minutes, the first hour and a half of the VOD will be me just running through like quest creation and the approach there. So yeah, definitely check it out. I may change day-night real quick just because we don't have this area lit yet, and it'd be cool to look at it as we leave. So it'd be cool to watch the sun come up. Actually, let's do this. Let's go 5 a.m. because a few of you are new here. We'll give it a little bit of time. Any sense yet on how viable it is to make a city of this size? Still hoping to make more beyond the proof of concept, or will those be smaller? So I've been thinking about this a lot lately, and I think what we may find is different cities are different sizes depending on the purpose that we define for them, their surrounding content, or their content that they're meant to support. And that may sound like a weird nebulous answer, but let's look at it this way. So we have this city. Hey, what's up, Ollie? They are sexy clowns. Good job. If you didn't tell Ollie happy birthday 2 days ago, then now is your chance to tell Ollie happy birthday. If you have technical questions, feel free to ask Ollie while he is in here. So the Ollie, you had mentioned before you wanted to see how I implement stuff. If you get a chance, I basically try to be as focused as possible on that process for the first hour and a half today. So it's there now. So Ziggurush, or Ziggurush, there you go. Some happy birthdays and a thanks from Ollie. Oh, no worries, Ollie. I figured you were just poking in. What I mean by depending on its purpose and placement is what we may find is that there may be a city that, and I don't want to use a specific race because then you'll think that I already really think this, or this is the way it's going to be. So what I was picturing was there may be a situation where we've got a couple of cities that are a bit closer to each other, but the story and the content's kind of built into the fact that while they aren't as huge as Night Harbor, when you look at screw it, let's use Elven cities for example. If we've got a couple of Elven cities that are fairly close to each other because of their history, then what we may find is that each of these two of the three Elven cities aren't necessarily that huge as this on their own, but they are a decent size with maybe more dungeons around them with more of a focus on that space between them in the environment, taking up some of what we're seeing here in terms of the adventure and gameplay. And then Night Harbor will feel very distinct, but then on the other coast, Eastham may be also equally as big, but a very kind of different vibe and more of an adventure feel and than even here. And so we're basically going to, instead of just kind of create this specific standard, really see how in creating the world we maximize the value of the cities while ensuring that they've got good longevity and durability, and ensuring that people want to go to more than just one or two of the cities in the world. And yeah, we'll play that by ear as we go. So far, this experiment it's cool in that it looked amazing. And now the next big challenge will be when we come in here and really fill it out and bring it to life and see if we can deliver on the adventure part of the venture aspect of the city. Ali said, about to watch a movie at the cinema before blasting our polished list of only 5 items. You know what? I'm so glad it's such a short list, Ollie. I'm really shocked that Nick didn't have more items on the list, but it is only 5. It is only 5. And then Ollie's done with the game. Jadenfire TTV, thank you. Yeah, we're really inspired by the late 90s, early 2000 vibe. You're gonna see a little bit of all of our favorite MMOs from that era in there. And the art style from back then is just I love it. So simpler shapes that are easily readable, painted textures. Man, this district is going to be so much fun. So is the market, though. And so is, it's just, there's a lot of city here. Oh, it's exciting. It's exciting. Good job, Pattis. Good job, Simon. Good job, everybody. I heard you say on the last VOD that you have a CRT. Is that true? It's not true. I was just being a smart aleck. I was being smarty. What? What is here? Did we even see this when we were up here? We didn't see it up here. We were standing right here and we're like, look at this. What is this even called? We didn't even notice. Oh. Does the Night Harbor have an elected official that runs the city, or is it a monarch that rules it? Night Harbor has a council. Because there's some different factions that have basically had to come together and agree to make Night Harbor. And so there's a council that runs Night Harbor. And then there may be some people that run the council, but that's for you to learn about later. Hell Dracula says, this looks great, can't wait to play. We're excited, man, and we can't wait to get people in here and like checking things out firsthand, because the thing is, it's so different when you're running around. And so it's one thing for me to show you, but oh man, when you get in here, I think you're gonna enjoy it. Yeah, Pattis, I assume there is some sneaky stuff like that going on. Ziggurat says, selfishly, I'd like to have a city that is to Neriac as Night Harbor is to Freeport. Well, notice I only used 2 of the 3 elves in my example, because it could be that deep elves deserve some extra love. I mean, it is a whole different biome and theme, right? Imagine a Night Harbor under the ground. I'm just saying. And so the more you guys get the word out, the more you guys continue to sort of support us by being active, getting the word out, being a part of our Discord, which you can find the link for right there, joining our mailing list, commenting, liking, subscribing on YouTube, the more likely it is that we keep this thing growing and growing. And then there is an eventuality of cool stuff like Underground Night Harbor. Did I miss anything up there? Opposite of Night Harbor, so it would be called Dayland. Oh, interesting. Oh, Nick was reloading the zone. Okay. I was like, did I just hit a zone line? No. So yeah, and again, those of you that are new to the stream today, check out some of the other videos. You'll see more gameplay and stuff like that. Like I said, I've been playing this guy legitimately. I haven't cheated on him at all. Though now that we've implemented the Necromancer quests, I may have to give myself the newbie note again and go back through those quests. But you'll see on the VODs that we've got all of the sort of core gameplay loops and a huge amount of the base functionality that you would expect. So all right, we left the harbor area. Let's run through. We went through the market earlier. Let's go off into the sprawl a little bit. Hashpipe, what's going on, buddy? Zagrash says, I could see smaller cities making sense, like how the Fade Arc felt like a whole region with 2 cities. Presumably those cities would get away with being smaller. Yeah, and I really do think it's going to come down to what feel we're trying to create in a given area. I've been putting a lot of thought into the region immediately after Night Harbor. I'm going to put together a little proposal and bounce it off the team. And sort of the theme and what the idea would be sort of story-wise and stuff for how we would move it into the next area. I got to do that maybe over this weekend and get it out there. But it plays into what we're talking about here. You need a dev mode skateboard to get around? Oh, I could cheat if I wanted to. Hashpipe said, "Getting my life in order." That is fantastic, dude. We still need to catch up, but I also know that sometime. I mean, this weekend, if you said you had a 4-day, maybe we can catch up. This looks absolutely amazing, by the way. Oh, thanks. The team, I'm sure, 100% appreciates it. They watch, they're actually really kind and watching some of the VODs and stuff, so they'll see that. EQ comparisons are starting to feel unfair. Night Harbor's feeling like it's gone way past Freeport. Yeah, I mean, the goal was not to not just replicate any of the other games that we're sort of drawing stuff from, but take all of our favorite memories of all the MMOs and CRPGs and stuff that we've played over the years, especially from this era, and then make something that's just got the right vibe. It's funny, and I'm not picking on the person that you may still be in here, but like that question of like, we were looking out over Shaded Dunes, and the question was, is this too close to EQ? And it's like, this is a low poly desert. It's just a low poly desert. If you go into any game of that era, it looks like this. It looks more like an era than a specific game, in my opinion. IMO. But the thing was, if you look at all the games that looked like this in 99 and 2000, look and see how many of them quickly stopped looking like this. Right? Like by 2001, 2002, 2003, when people mention EQ, well, but EQ didn't even look like this within, a year, 2 years of launch. So, oh, there's Pattis. I don't think it was originally intended, but Night Harbor may just end up being the biggest city. Worlds typically have a single metropolis. Maybe, but I've really honestly been thinking about this a fair bit. Yeah, so those of you that haven't seen gameplay and stuff before, definitely check out some of the other videos. I'm not going to be able to get to all of it tonight, because in a little bit I'm going to get up and start cooking Thanksgiving, get everything in the oven. And yeah, there's cool particle effects and sounds and everything else that you should be checking out. But let's zone over real quick, and then we'll look at it. Pattis's wonderful work at night. Did the team play much Asheron's Call? I think a couple people did. Like I think I mentioned earlier, when Bunny was on the team, she spoke a lot about it. I think she probably played the most. I played a bit. I was always really impressed with some of their systems, the fealty and a number of other things. If you notice, I just went across the zone line, and it's not. It was daytime, now it's nighttime. That's just because when we're in here, we use GM commands to change day-night so much, and we don't have a reset everything back to the server day-night command yet. So you'll notice that difference. Let's see. Tender said, agreed, it gave me Anarchy Online nostalgia, but that's only because that was the MMO of the era that I played the most. Yeah, awesome. That's cool to hear. Pattis said, just one of the districts in Night Harbor surpasses the total number of buildings in Classic Freeport. All 3 zones as well. Vagrant says, never been a fan of MMOs, but it's nice coming in here and listening to all you guys be so passionate about it. Well, thank you. Thadvic, I don't think I said thank you for the follow 22 minutes ago for whatever reason. Thank you for the follow. Thank you for being here. Sorry I missed you. But yeah, like Asheron's calls world events, and their chronology and their fealty system and like all of that. There is a number of really cool things in there. Well, that's what you get for attacking people. I'm sorry, pup. Tootmaster, I hope you have a wonderful Thanksgiving as well. Yeah, and so this is our little desert zone out here. You won't see any of the NPCs at the moment because I'm outside of their sphere of influence, or they're outside of my sphere of influence. But I would go explore more, but I'd have to become invulnerable. I'd be afraid that I might get killed by some stuff out here, to be honest. This is my actual play character. Let's see. Where is Night Harbor in terms of the world? Fairly central. Not sure if you've shown a world map yet. We have not. In the world map, inevitably will change some, but as part of my sort of proposal to the team, we'll talk about that a little bit. We have one that will ultimately, I think, change a bit. But it is in the southwest corner of the primary continent. Happy Sangibby. Your family likes to mispronounce. Well, that sounds just darling. Yeah, so I tell you what, guys. My original plan was to hop up and start the oven before 5 and then get that warmed up and then throw it in there. But what I may actually do, because we've hit, I think, like a nice stopping point, is I may go ahead and wrap up the stream so that I can take those 15 minutes to do a couple of things while the oven's warming up. And then, oh my god, oh no. So Nick just ran by with some mobs, training them, but I guess one of them is charmed. He may be testing something with charm and zoning. So now we got bandits that will either one of them kill me pretty instantly sitting here fighting. Hashpipe's like, lol, classic Nick. Seeing if charm breaks on zoning. Yeah. But yeah, guys, so what I'm going to this is beautiful. Let's take a look. Who's winning? It's pretty evenly matched. So as I was saying, probably going to wrap up here so that I can go human, I think, because I slowed the ogre earlier. Makes sense. Oh man, I'm just fascinated. Watch the sun come up over here. Watch this fight play out, and then I'll hop up. But yeah, hopefully, again, if you guys enjoyed sort of the implementation details and stuff earlier, let me know. Hit us up in Discord. You can find me there. If you just stumbled in this last 5 minutes, check out our website, monstersandmemories.com. If you go to the website, if you are new, if you go to the website, Yeah, I broke that mess. Sorry. If you're new, check out the updates. Go to the old updates because there's concept art and screenshots and videos and all that sort of stuff in there that is not anywhere else on the site. And there's some really fun stuff on there. If you're new to the project, there's also a 2-year retrospective that shows basically the evolution of the game over the last 2 years, which is the human gated. Oh no, that's hilarious. I wonder how much of the bandit camp is going to assist him now. Oh, he's going back to the ogre's going to the camp. Oh, there's a server error, so that's not good. The jackal's following Nick. Chaos has ensued. Oh geez, Nick summoned me. I feel unsafe. Alright, I'm gonna make myself invulnerable. Admin abuse? Yeah. I'll report him. He's mezzed. He is clearly mezzed. He just gated again. He is. Skeleton ate the whole gummy. He ate the whole bag. Invisible mez is neat. Yes, we want to try to put that type of information in game as much as possible. We are not hiring at the moment, but we appreciate the fact that you would even ask. Keep an eye out on our website and our Discord because we post whenever we have a need there. Boom Bang Crash, thank you for the follow. This bandit has gated out a couple times. I guess he's just out of mana. Yeah. And just running back in to get his ass beat. Enoch, good morning and happy Thanksgiving to you as well. And so, yeah, speaking of, I'm going to hop up now. I'm going to wrap up. And go get the oven started. Otherwise, it's going to be a late night, even though it's only like a 1.5, 1.6 kilo turkey thigh that needs to get going. Jasmine gets off work at around 6. She should be around 6:20, so you won't have to wait too long for the turkey. Mark Fowler, that name sounds extremely familiar. Why does that name sound so familiar? Damn. Okay. Anyways, thank you for the follow. Thanks for hanging out with me today. I hope you have a wonderful Thanksgivings for those of you in places that do that. You have a common name, actually? That may be it then. I'm going to head towards the zone line, so when I log back in, my guy doesn't just get steamrolled. Yeah, if you came in later, the first half of the VOD will be basically me just showing a real simple design, sort of a very simple format and approach I use for making quests pretty quickly, and then sort of how all of it gets added into the database in our database and stuff. So if you're interested in that kind of stuff, check it out. So Jaden Golden Gloves, John, you're very welcome. Thanks for being a part of the stream. Vagrant, enjoy the first part of the VOD. Let's see. Hashpipe, good to see you. Hit me, or actually that's Hell's Ridge. But Hell's Ridge, good to see you as well. Hashpipe, don't forget to hit me up. Remez, thank you. Schmal Knight said, I just finished making my pumpkin pie and now eating a piece. Hope no one knows this is a missing piece. I'm sure you'll be fine. You enjoy that pumpkin pie. I'm jealous. I am not making that's. I'm going pretty low key this Thanksgiving. No pie. Pattis, see you in Slack. Happy Thanksgiving. May your turkey be moist and your gravy rich. Gravy. Oh shit. I need to make gravy. Thank you for the reminder. I've totally forgot about gravy. All right. So, but I've got plenty of like instant gravy. It'll be fine. Schwanite, Golden Gloves. Yeah, sorry, Pattis. I just didn't have time to make a pie. I know it is blasphemy. Everybody, how did I forget gravy? I don't know. I've got mashed potatoes. I got stuffing. I was too busy thinking about you guys. Don't forget to use the taste command on the food. Who knows what quest it holds? I have an idea. All right, everybody. Have a wonderful day. It's good to see you again. Everybody enjoy your Thanksgivings. And I will see you on Tuesday. Have a great and safe weekend. Yeah. See you guys. See you.